I'd like to welcome everyone to the Book of the Month. We're interviewing Dr. Dick Dalton and his book, I Am Not My Thoughts. This is a great book for all of us to read and maybe even have as a Book of the Month club. I've heard another group that is studying your I Am Not My Thoughts book and are reading it. And a good choice. That's all I have to say. Very good choice. So we are on chapter 6 talking about the judging virus epidemic today. And I thought that you could give us a little purview of why we call judging a virus. And you have a statement in here that I just think is a little bit explanatory, but the depth of what judging is and how we can kill the virus within us would be a very helpful thing for all of us since
what are you looking at?
And so I am looking on page 57, the judging virus, and it says has done more to injure and kill people, to separate and destroy relationships, and to rob people of their health and happiness than any other single cause. And so that is such a profound statement. I thought that you could explain what the judging virus is and a little bit about it and what that virus looks like inside of us and how to get it out.
Yeah, great. And I don't know if this will work as well as I hope it does, but here's a card in the book that shows two kids on a teeter-totter, and it shows superior and inferior as we ride the teeter-totter throughout the day. And then on the right side, it talks about always comparing better than, worse than. And that's sort of the way it goes. As you know, we're not born with thoughts. We're not born thinking in English or Swahili or whatever our culture is surrounding us. We have to be taught everything. And so we're not taught to we're not born comparing with other people, but we're taught to compare by people around us, comparing us to other people, comparing our behaviors to other behaviors. Why don't you just act like your brother? Well, that's probably not the right example. I don't know anybody that would say, why don't you act like your brother? But some brothers were a little better behaved than others, I guess. But it doesn't take, every time we've gotten together, Jan, we've actually talked about the judging virus because it's just so everywhere. I was thinking about TV shows. You can't watch a TV show, whether it's news or a movie or whatever, without comparing, judging, better than, worse than, and the fights that go on, the wars that go on. This war in Israel-Palestine, we can go back in the Bible and see where it began thousands of years ago with Abraham and Sarah and the two kids. Why? Because the separation that takes place when people judge one another as better than, worse than, whether it's color of skin, culture, education, you name it, doesn't matter. I don't like that dress you're wearing. What an ugly dress. It can be so mundane. But if we got the virus in us, it's judging us and it's judging somebody else better than, worse than, better than, worse than. So this comment that you were quoting, which is, I think, like you say, a profound comment, because if you took away the judging virus, there would be no reason for wars and fights and divorces and all this different stuff. It just wouldn't be there. You wouldn't get angry with each other, because most anger and fights are over comparing. You don't love me like you should. Sorry.
No, I think that's very relevant because what is your image of should? You don't love me as you should. What does that mean? nobody knows.
Yeah, really, because it's all opinions
Mhm.
and experiences. And so we compare our experience to somebody else's experience or some book we read or some movie we watched. And you know, it's amazing, just amazing. And I call it a virus. I'm not the only one that calls these things viruses. I think it's common, maybe more common than we think, that particularly back when the word meme, M-E-M-E, was coined back in 1976. It was trying to compare genes to ideas, and so the author Richard Dawkins created the word meme, and so ideas conceive in our minds to create a body of knowledge. So true, judging is an idea, and it gets in our mind. The reason the shift has taken place to call it a virus is that it's hurtful. It causes damage, whether it's damage to us or damage to someone else. It's not there to enhance, enrich, grow in a healthy way. It's there in a way that hurts us and hurts others. So that's why the idea of virus. And plus, a virus clearly shows that it's not me. I mean, I contracted a virus. I got it from somebody else that had it. I got infected with the virus. So we don't say, you're a bad person because you got polio.
Some people think about that and make,
It's a virus.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure if they have a judging virus,
That's exactly
they can
right.
use any excuse to
That's
condemn
exactly.
somebody.
That's exactly right.
Good point. Good point.
So I'm not sure that we really understand per se what a judging virus sounds like within our mind. So I mean, we've gotten good criteria. One, that if we are comparing ourselves to someone else, elevating ourselves, or putting somebody else down, all of these kind of little things that are very destructive, because somebody may say, well, that's true, they're no good, or they're not, this way or that way. When we were in grade school, our parents probably judged other kids. Don't run around with this one, or don't run around with that one, or all of these different criteria that they use that they may cause you to have problems, if you are in the wrong crowd.
Yeah. Well, parents think of their experience when they were kids, and then they make the judgment that their kid is going to possibly have similar experiences, and they know theirs weren't all that hot sometimes. And so they project their fears and their judgments on their kid or the people that they're interacting with, or it just goes on and on.
So
let me make this other point. Parents, if they're wise parents and the kid's really young, you may hear the parent say, I love you, but I don't like what you just did. The parent sometimes can actually separate the behavior from I love you, from the person, from the individual.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're trying to do here, is separate the individual from the thoughts that they've been infected with that cause them to act out and behave in ways that they don't even realize they have a choice. It's just, that's what they got given, and so they're just doing with what they have. And unfortunately, that means comparing, judging, all this goes on.
Mm-hmm.
So kudos to you parents that are separating the one you love from the behaviors that you observe. Just see if you can translate that out to your neighbors, your spouse, to the Congress people, to the world, because it's the same thing happening all over the world. There's individuals and there's their behaviors, and we don't know why they're doing what they're doing, except they're doing what they were, quote, taught to do, whether that was intentional teaching or whether that was incidental teaching. And if they haven't done a self-examination to say, oh, wow, I've got a big judging virus going on, I need to get rid of it, then they're stuck with it. They're going to have it. There's nothing they can do about it.
Yeah. Well, when you say there's nothing they can do about it, I think your book gives us some challenges in here of how we can look at the judging virus as a virus, and what are some of the things that we can do about it if we are infected.
Yeah, well, the first thing is recognizing that we're infected, recognizing that those thoughts are not me, what I'm feeling and feeling because of what I'm thinking right now. That's not me, that's something I was given. I acquired that. Okay, that's step one. If we don't have that, or at least if we're not seeking help with what we see that we have, if we're depressed, go to somebody and ask for help, then we may not ever hear those thoughts aren't you. And that starts to build a little wedge between us and the thought. I reference in the chapter a woman named Robin Kasarjian and her book Forgiveness. She uses the analogy of a pain body, kind of like inside our mind, picture a body, and it's the pain body that grows primarily from a judging virus infection. And so when we hurt, sometimes it's our pain body that acts out or talks out at someone else. And oftentimes it touches their pain body and it'll come back and their pain body will be talking and interacting with our pain body. So she again is trying to separate the individual from this acquired set of emotions and thoughts that we get as we grow up. And if we can get, whether it's Robin's example of a pain body or whether it's us talking about the virus, or another example we talk about is the two wolves. We've talked about that before, growing in our heart, struggling in our heart. Which one we're going to feed? Analogies about all we can work with here. And so, given those analogies, we use the tools of substitution. There's I think a Bible reference, something about if we have an unclean spirit, let's call a judging virus an unclean spirit.
Okay.
And let's say it goes out. Somehow we get it out. We've starved it out. It told it, no, I'm not going to listen to you. But we don't put anything back in its place. If we don't substitute another belief for that spirit, that judging virus, then it is got easy access to find another way to slip in. And it will. So I'm big on substitutes. And so we need to find a substitute belief for the belief that I'm better than or worse than somebody else. Yeah. And so I think I have a statement in here close to that other one that says something like, I am no better or worse than any other individual. Yeah. Let's see. I cannot judge. Well, that's another statement. I don't see it right at the moment without my glasses, but it's saying I am no better or worse than any other individual. And so, well, maybe this is, I cannot judge, and this is another point, I cannot judge that any individual is in full control of its thoughts and actions at any particular time. So this is another approach, another point. And if you're familiar with the book The Shack, this is kind of the approach of The Shack, is that they use the analogies of God in three persons and a guy that had a near-death experience and goes off and has an experience with God. But in the story, the God is pictured as one who sees every step of our growing of ideas, behaviors, etc. And so the God that sees that can forgive us because that God understands how it all happened. It's very easy to see how that happened when we weren't choosing it to happen. And so if we can sort of get that mentality that anybody that we observe or ourselves, we have a history, but all of that history has steps that we went through or that individual went through that has built those behaviors and thoughts in their minds. And we don't know if they have gone through a self-examination process and been able to discern and sort out all of these different thoughts and feelings that they've been loaded down with and had the power grown to substitute one for another. How can we judge that they've done that? So how can we say they're doing it on purpose? So how can we really judge them? We can say, I don't like that behavior, I don't agree with that teaching, without judging them, can't we? Hopefully. That would be an adult thing to do if we're a wise adult. Oh, that's an interesting opinion. I have a different point of view. But hey, carry on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, before we get too far on this, because our time's going to run out before we know it. There's a thought that came to me as I was doing this chapter about the judgment day that so many Christians, and I don't know if the Jewish faith has this in theirs or Muslims, I think probably do, that somewhere there's going to be a judgment day and people are going to be sorted out for their deeds and so on. Well, this has got to be some analogy for and I've been taught that it's more like an analogy. But the point I'm getting at is the way that we can eliminate even the remote possibility of there being a judgment day is by discerning the judging virus and not judging anymore. Substituting a belief that I'm no better or worse than anybody else for the belief that I am better or worse than somebody else. And we stop judging. If we stop judging, there's no judgment that happens to us, because didn't Jesus say, judge not lest you be judged?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you don't judge, then you won't be judged.
Mm-hmm.
So no judgment day.
Yes.
Hey.
I hear about that.
that.
That's some wisdom. But you have to get there to understand that.
Yeah, in the idea. But we can't judge that somebody else is going to be judged because they don't understand it. Because how could they be judged if they're just doing what they were taught and haven't had the opportunity to self-examine and go through the process of substituting something consistently until it doesn't even come to mind?
So it sounds like in this this scenario or these different ways of replacement, it sounds like forgiveness is a big key in this process, no matter if we don't really have the full understanding, that being able to be merciful to our brother or sister
Or self.
or self for what we we think or say or do is a big key. And again, it always takes two to tangle. So why tangle that way? You know, why speak out, speak back, and then start this roaring, like you said, anger back and forth with each other? Because if only we could be merciful and forgiving and understand that they're just doing what they were taught.
Yeah. And so let's do away with Judgment Day. Ooh, did that rhyme? Let's do away with Judgment Day. Hey, great idea.
It would be a great idea to be able to not to judge. I think that is...
Well, think about it. If we think God is going to judge us, then we think he's got a judging virus.
Mm-hmm.
How about that?
Yeah.
Do you think your God has a judging virus? And he compares people? That's interesting. Did we create a God that has that point of view? Because we judge each other, certainly God must judge it. I don't know. I'd favor a God that doesn't have a judging virus, one that is understanding and loving and no judging going on.
I think we have a really good example of that when Jesus went to the cross. When he, and I think he said that he had God within him. And when he went to the cross, he said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do."
Yep, that was a powerful statement.
Powerful, very powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good replacement if we really want to be Christ-like, and you're a Christian, and that's one of your purposes is to have Christ working in you.
There you go. Substitute the old for the new.
That's exactly right.
All right.
I think I heard that in the scriptures someplace too.
Yes, well, you hear a lot of things in the scriptures, Jan. You got to be a little careful about that. I heard they killed babies and women and all back in the old days. You know, if they wanted something, they just slaughtered the other people. But, well, okay. Yeah.
But that's a replacement from the old to the new, right? I think that's when Jesus came. so yeah, there you have it. Well,
yes, at least he had the teaching. Now, as we have talked before, just because a teaching is there doesn't mean that people understand it.
That's true.
And so, again, we can't judge that somebody, because they went to church or heard a sermon or went to Sunday school or read the whole Bible 6 times. It doesn't matter if there is not an understanding. They're going to give some understanding to it based on their own experience, but is that the understanding that was intended? Who knows? It's tough. Even the things that we're talking about today, it's just an opinion, right? We're just sharing things that seem to work for a lot of individual cultures because we're drawing from different cultures with the same idea, and as we'll see throughout the book. So
it's always something great to think about. I am not my thoughts.
Amen. Ooh. Thanks,
you,
Jan.
Dick.
We did another session. All right. See you next time.
Yes.
Look forward to it.